Support for this podcast comes from the St. Alphonsus Neuroscience Institute, offering technology to provide treatment for neurological, neurosurgical, and neurointerventional conditions. This includes a dedicated neurotrauma ICU for critical care of the brain or spine and a 24/7 stroke team. More at stalphonsus.org.
From Boise State Public Radio, this is The Connector. It's Idaho's Daily News. Good morning. I'm George Prentice. Well, there was plenty of emotional testimony yesterday concerning a bill that would target cities' anti-discrimination laws. Plus, we'll tell you why lawmakers are still talking about the state lottery over at the Capitol. It is Tuesday, the 3rd of February. Here we go with today's stories. Today, there will be two meetings in public in search of transparency and two very different incidents which generated quite a bit of conversation in their communities. First, in Hailey, where Blaine County commissioners have asked for the county coroner to come before them today and answer some serious allegations from their community's law enforcement. You may remember our reports where the Blaine County sheriff, the county prosecutor, local police chiefs saying the coroner's actions and sometimes inactions at death scenes may have hindered prosecutions.
Do I remain silent based on my emotional connection to Russ, or do I do what is ethically and morally right by shedding light on the failures of the elected coroner and the risk these failures bring to our community?
When they say that you don't take photographs at death scenes, is that accurate?
Not at all. And the Hailey police chief that made that comment is rarely at a scene.
And that was us talking with Blaine County Coroner Russ Michael on this broadcast, talking about some of those accusations. Today he goes before county commissioners. Then, later today, a public update on the events surrounding New Year's Eve in downtown Boise, when during a fireworks display, a 5-year-old girl was seriously injured. There's been a Boise police report, but law enforcement has not spoken publicly about any of those findings. Today, Assistant Boise Fire Chief Romeo Gervais updates the Boise Council, as does the city's Community Engagement Director, Maria Wigg, who appeared on this broadcast just last week.
The larger conversation, if it were to happen, is more likely about is the way in which the footprint downtown has changed, have an impact on whether or where fireworks are allowed for any event.
You can see all of our reporting on that story on our website, boisestatepublicradio.org. As for today, those updates coming from the Assistant Fire Chief and Maria Wigg will be in front of Boise City Council during their workshop session. That begins at 4:30 at City Hall. It was a packed room Monday. In fact, the House Local Government Committee had to move to a larger room to accommodate the number of people anxious to weigh in on House Bill 557. That's the measure that would not allow cities to have their own anti-discrimination laws. Currently, a dozen Idaho cities, including Boise, Meridian, Ketchum, Hailey, Victor, and others, have non-discrimination ordinances. Yesterday, there was ample support of the measure that would keep those cities from having those ordinances, which in many cases protect their LGBTQ plus citizenry.
I support this bill to help make sure that businesses in Idaho are not unfairly targeted because of their religious beliefs.
Men don't belong in women's private spaces, and local government should not provide legal cover for businesses with harmful policies to the contrary.
It eliminates the tyranny of the minority, the tyranny to force everyone to view the world through the lens of a pseudo-idea.
And there were Donald Knapp, Jennifer Hook, and Michael Hahn. But there was plenty of public opposition to House Bill 557.
This is also personal for me because my trans daughter was a student not that long ago in a Boise public high school, and she was the target of a violent threat simply because she was transgender. It was terrifying for her and for our family, and her story is unfortunately all too common.
What we are talking about is people having the right to have a home for themselves and for their families.
As a woman, I'm sick of people using claims that they're protecting me as an excuse to beat up on marginalized communities. Laws that discriminate against transgender women do not protect me. They are a threat to all women, trans and cisgender.
And there were Sarah Lawal, Nixon Matthews, and April Hoy. The committee took a couple of hours of public testimony. Then, late Monday, the vote, mostly along party lines, Republicans in favor, Democrats against, with the exception of GOP House Representative Don Cheatham from Pocatello.
I don't think the state should be fiddling with what happens at local government. Let local government officials manage their own affairs. We hear it all the time here in the Capitol. The feds are fooling with the state of Idaho, and we turn right around and try and do the same thing to local government.
The final vote of the House Local Government Committee, 13-3, to send House Bill 557 to the full House. The latest bill to conform with federal tax changes received overwhelming opposition in the House Revenue and Taxation Committee yesterday. But as James Dawson explains, that proposal is still heading to the House floor along party lines.
Estimates show adopting the federal tax changes will cost Idahoans $155 million in the current fiscal year and another $175 million next year. Critics like Donna Carlson of Boise say Idaho's budget can't absorb that hit after years of tax cuts. She pushed back on those who say the state needs to cut budgets further.
Our so-called spending problem is because we are humans with needs who require services that in many cases only the government can provide.
Other testifiers worry these potential cuts will affect everything from health care support to education. Republican Representative Jeff Ehlers, who sponsors the bill, says these critics should talk to the Joint Finance and Appropriations Committee instead.
It is not a budget bill. It is not addressing those things. It is about our tax policy and how we conform to the one big beautiful bill.
However, JFAC does not take public testimony. Ehlers' bill could get a vote on the House floor later this week. James Dawson, Boise State Public Radio News.
In one recent year, the Idaho Lottery reported that it had paid out more than $76 million in prizes. But one Idaho lawmaker says millions have been going out to what he calls out-of-state syndicates who are trying to game the system.
Over the last year, the Idaho Lottery Commission has paid out nearly $4 million to out-of-state syndicates and winnings. As an example, there was $1 million paid out to a group in Philadelphia called Breezy Legs, purchased in Nampa. $700,000 purchased or sent to another syndicate in Philadelphia.
This is GOP House Representative Joe Alfieri of Coeur d'Alene, whose bill would not allow bulk lottery ticket purchases exceeding $5,000 in a 24-hour period. And retailers, who usually get a healthy payout if they sell a winning ticket, would also be penalized if they knowingly facilitate those bulk purchases. But in yesterday's hearing, GOP Representative Joe Palmer said he was skeptical.
I'm a little concerned that this bill won't accomplish what we're trying to accomplish. I absolutely agree it's the right thing to make this so it can't happen anymore, but I'm not sure that this is not going to stop them. I don't understand why the same syndicate group can't take 4 different people and send them to 4 different places at the same time and all spend $5,000.
But ultimately, the State Affairs Committee agreed to have a full debate on the issue on the floor of the full House. And that is today's episode of The Connector. I'm George Prentice. Say, on today's morning edition, I had this wonderful conversation with student podcasters from Idaho City. In fact, their podcast was entered into the NPR Student Podcast Challenge. I would love for you to listen to it. You can do that at boisestatepublicradio.org. We'll be back here on Wednesday. Until then, from me to you, thanks for listening.
Hi, it's Terry Gross, host of Fresh Air. Hey, take a break from the 24-hour news cycle with us and listen to long-form interviews with your favorite authors, actors, filmmakers, comedians, and musicians, the people making the art that nourishes us and speaks to our times. So listen to the Fresh Air podcast from NPR and WHYY.